Chapter 108, The Princess. The Douluo Emperor smiled faintly and said, in order to ensure the safety of the semi-finalists and the finalists, I have decided that the Empire's protected Douluo will be the judges for the subsequent rounds, and be hosts to the contest. Senior Huang Jingsu shall be the host for today's balloting in the first round. His title is the Heaven Fiend Lone Star. The Emperor's introduction stirred up a wave of applause from the citizens in the audience. However, the participating teams were all slightly taken aback. Wang Yan was surprised and remarked, Huang Jingsu, the Heaven Fiend Douluo. I thought he was long dead. Who knew that he joined the Douluo Empire instead? Ma Xiaotao was already walking up to the stage. Who are you? Al whispered to Bei beside him. Senior brother, what's the deal with this Heaven Fiend Douluo? Is he very powerful? Bei nodded his head without hesitation and said, yes, very powerful. The Douluo Empire is trying to assert their dominance and flaunt their national strength. The Heaven Fiend Douluo's martial soul is extremely special. He uses the stars in the skies above as his own martial soul. Legend has it that there was a star that was especially bright on the day he was born. His martial soul was automatically awakened after his birth. On the same night, his mother died from losing too much blood, and his father passed away when he was 8 years old. After this, his friends also died one by one. It was later discovered that his martial soul was the Heaven Fiend Lone Star that targeted his family and friends. Because of this, he is destined to be alone for the rest of his life. Who are you? Al's mouth hung open in shock. There can be martial souls like this. Bei smiled and replied, soul masters can have any kind of martial soul. What isn't possible? This eldest Heaven Fiend Lone Star martial soul caused him to lose his family, but at the same time, it gave him great power. It's been claimed that he cultivated without a master, and that everything he knows is self-taught. He has continued his journey alone over the years, and eventually attained the title of Heaven Fiend. He's around 60 years old this year, and he is around rank 91 or 92. However, it's been said that star power of the Heaven Fiend Lone Star enables him to hold his own against a rank 95 transcendent Douluo. He has had to rely on himself for everything, since he lost all his family and friends at a very young age. Perhaps this explains why the Heaven Fiend Douluo is a very capricious person with a fickle nature, becoming extremely cruel and brutal at times. However, rumor has it that he picked a fight with several powerful sects some time ago, and they chased him down like a dog. Just as Bei was introducing the Heaven Fiend Douluo's background to Hua Yuao, the respective team leaders of the final 4 teams arrived on stage. Ma Xiaotao represented Shrek Academy, while Ma Rulong represented the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy. The team leader of the Imperial Mystical Academy was a youth with broad shoulders and an average build. He had a calm disposition, and looked as firm as a rock. The representative from the Douluo National Academy was a young girl. A female team leader was a rare sight. Hua Yuao and the others from Shrek Academy had seen this girl before. She was the chief auctioneer from the Douluo auction, Princess Juju. It wasn't just the company from Shrek Academy who were astonished. The participants from the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy were equally surprised as their eyes widened. They had also been there during the top-ranked auction. The Douluo National Academy's uniform was a pale yellow warrior robe. The princess was a lot different compared to her dignified and elegant look during the auction that day. Donning a warrior robe changed her aura, and now she seemed to emanate a rippling heroic spirit. Her flowing blonde hair was tied up in a ponytail, and she wore a faint smile on her pretty face. The yellow warrior robe was tailored to her body, and it brought out the distinct features of her perfect and alluring figure. Even though Ma Xiaotao's aura wasn't inferior to hers in fact, Ma Xiaotao's figure was even slightly better. There was still a feeling that she was outdone by this princess on the whole. Ma Rulong only glanced at the princess once, and his eyes betrayed a tinge of astonishment before he turned his gaze elsewhere. The team leader from Imperial Mystical Academy stared at Juju for a long time before he shifted his eyes away. Wang Yan furrowed his brows as he watched the princess on stage. She hadn't appeared in the Douluo National Academy's lineup before today. However, according to what he knew, the Douluo National Academy's reserve team had a single vacancy. Whether it was him or the other 3 academies, nobody knew anything regarding this princess. Suddenly, Wang Yan's eyes flickered as a trace of bewilderment flowed out from within. I remember now. Yueheng, the Douluo royal family's martial soul should be. Dai Yueheng arrived next to Wang Yan and nodded. Your guess is correct, Teacher Wang. My father has evaluated the Emperor's martial soul before, but he only said a few words, enigmatic and impossible to predict. My father also said that the Emperor is the most talented and prodigious individual in the past 300 years. However, I have never heard of the princess. Wang Yan took a deep breath and said, let's watch the lots first. The 4 representatives from the final 4 academies were already on stage, and the lot drawing had begun. The 14 leaders arrived before the Douluo Emperor under the watchful eyes of 4 titled Douluos. The Douluo Emperor smiled and said, it's a pleasure to meet such outstanding youths such as yourselves. Before the competition begins, I'd like to remind all of you that friendship takes priority over anything. I hope you can finish the competition with that in mind. I will toss 4 inscribed balls after this, and you guys will vie for them at the same time. Are you ready? Ma Xiaotao narrowed her eyes slightly as she stole a glance at Princess Juju beside her. Ready. Princess Juju smiled and nodded her head as Ma Rulong and the Imperial Mystical Academy's team leader tilted their heads in response as well. Pay attention. The Douluo Emperor squinted his eyes immediately after, and nobody saw how he did it. Before golden balls were tossed into the air at the same time, Ma Xiaotao was already lying in wait. She shot into the air the moment the Douluo Emperor made his move. Releasing her martial soul and using soul skills wouldn't affect her speed at such a short distance. Her choice was the same as Ma Rulong, Imperial Mystical Academy's team leader, as all of them leapt into the air towards the 4 golden balls in the sky as fast as they could. Princess Juju was the only one that didn't move an inch. She just stood there with a grin on her face. Ma Xiaotao lived up to her status as Shrek Academy's team leader. One shouldn't underestimate her just because she was a girl. Her enchanting figure was like a spring as she shot up into the air. She caught the tiny ball in an instant before she drifted back down. As she was descending, the Imperial Mystical Academy's team leader and Ma Rulong caught theirs respectively, while Princess Juju casually reached out to catch the last remaining golden ball as it dropped down. A faint smile appeared on her face. She glanced at the tiny ball in her hands. Even though she was the last one to catch the ball, she was the first to report. 1. Ma Rulong said. 2. Ma Xiaotao stared straight at Princess Juju's face. 1. Even though the Imperial Mystical Academy had yet to report their number, the results of the ballot were decided. Shrek Academy would face off against the Douluo National Academy today, while the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy would go against the Imperial Mystical Academy. After the Douluo Emperor personally checked the lot numbers, he announced the results to the audience. The audience roared with a mix of excitement and surprise the moment they heard their home team was up against Shrek Academy. On the surface, it appeared as if Ma Xiaotao drew the better number for Shrek Academy. According to Wang Yan's analysis the previous day, the team from Douluo National Academy was the weakest one amongst the final 4 teams. The semi-finals and the finals followed the same rules as the previous elimination rounds and were carried out over 2 days, with both group elimination rounds and single elimination rounds. The only difference was that both rounds had to be won before they could advance. If both parties won 1 round each, the format would be changed to a 2-2-3 round. This meant that winning the group battle no longer gave a team any advantage. While the semi-finals were held throughout the course of the day with breaks in the middle, the finals group elimination, single elimination and 2-2-3 rounds were to be completed in one go. In the end, it wouldn't just be a battle of strength, it would become a battle of attrition, endurance and determination. The Douluo Emperor smiled and said, I hope all 4 teams will give their best in the subsequent rounds of the competition. The balloting has been concluded, so make your preparations. Shrek Academy and the Douluo National Academy will start off today's group battles, and the second match will be between the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy and the Imperial Mystical Academy. Ma Xiaotao returned to the resting area. Wang Yan was the first to step up as he lowered his voice and said, Xiaotao, what do you feel about the princess from the Douluo Empire? Ma Xiaotao shook her head and replied, I can't see through her. She's very complicated. I had hoped to gauge her mastery through her physical strength during the lot drawing, but she didn't move at all. She didn't activate any soul power either, and there was no way I could discern her abilities. Yuao, try using spiritual detection. Who are Yuao's eyebrows creased as he said. I've already tried. However, the princess seems to be carrying some sort of special item. When my spiritual detection landed on her body, there was a mysterious layer that blocked me. I couldn't detect her soul power's circulation or predict her actions. My spiritual detection is also affected when the gap in mastery is too great. At this point, everybody circled around as the semifinals were about to begin. There was a sudden and unforeseen change in circumstances with their opponents, and this wasn't good news at all for Shrek Academy. They weren't even all from the official team. Wang Yan's expression was solemn as he said, "We will follow the original plan. Don't think too much about this, and trust your own abilities. Ma Xiaotao and Yuheng will anchor the single elimination rounds. Even if Princess Juju is a powerful soul emperor, we must not let our self-confidence fall. Since this is the case, winning the group battle is a must. I will announce the order of battle for the group elimination round. Ma Xiaotao, Da Yuheng, Ling Luoken, Bei Bei, Xu Sanqi, Hua Yuao, and Wang Dong. The 7 of you will start the battle. We can't let anything go wrong in the group battle. I have a feeling that Douluo National Academy will have some sort of advantage in the 2-2-3 battle. If we lose the group battle, the competition may slip out of our control." Everybody nodded their heads as Hikato and Jiang Nanan exchanged a look. They both saw the surprise in each other's eyes. They had assumed that they would be part of the lineup for the group battle. Hikato's battle prowess with his soul tools was already proven in the previous rounds, while Jiang Nanan's close combat abilities were incredible as well. Even Soul Kings would find it hard to fight her if they let her get close. However, Wang Yan choosing Hua Yuao and Wang Dong to fight in this crucial group battle was unexpected for everyone. Wang Yan stepped in front of Hua Yuao and lowered his voice. "It's fine if you don't fight, but the moment you make a move, you have to be confident of victory. I trust you know what I'm trying to say." "Yes." Hua Yuao nodded curtly. Wang Yan took a deep breath as he reached out his right hand, palm face down. "I've said this before, kids. You guys have already exceeded all expectations, and fought in all the previous rounds successfully. Whether our glory will continue today in today's battle is entirely up to you. I have done all I can as the teacher in charge. Now, I can only pray for everyone from the side of the stage. You guys will be the heroes of Shrek regardless of whether we win or lose. So watch out for Princess Juju if I'm not wrong. Her martial soul should be the star crown." Hand after hand was stacked on top of Wang Yan's, one after another. Ma Xiaotao was the last to extend her right hand. She glanced at Wang Yan with a serious look and said, "Teacher Wang Yan, I know you are trying to bolster our fighting spirit. Don't worry, as members of Shrek Academy, our determination to guard our academy's glory is no less than the others. Even if we have to use our lives to fuel the flames of Shrek's glory, we will never let it burn out." To victory, everybody roared out in unison. The flames of their fighting spirits erupted in an instant. Compared to Shrek Academy's energetic aura, the Douluo National Academy appeared to be a lot quieter and calmer. The participants of this round stepped up one after another. Princess Juju, who was standing at the forefront, glanced at Shrek Academy casually. The first person that she searched for wasn't Shrek's team leader, Ma Xiaotao. Instead, she was looking for Hua Yuao. Hua Yuao was glancing over towards their camp at the same time, and their eyes met at that very instant. Hua Yuao was slightly taken aback as he realized, to his astonishment, that the dignified princess's eyes betrayed a provocative undertone. "Why is she trying to provoke me? I don't think I'll be the one fighting her." Hua Yuao was a little baffled. His eyes squinted a little as they sparkled with a green light. The two parties may have been a world apart in mastery, but that single flash of light in his eyes sent a chill up Princess Juju's spine. Participants from Shrek Academy, Douluo National Academy, please step on stage. The judge responsible for today's group battle was the heaven-famed Douluo from before. The Douluo Emperor had already returned to the imperial palace under the protection of the other 3 titled Douluo, and was watching the stage from the top of the city wall. Ma Xiaotao walked in front with Da Yuheng, Ling Luoken, Bei Bei, Xu Sanqi, Hua Yuao and Wang Dong following closely behind as both parties stepped onto the competition stage at the same time. The semifinals had yet to begin, but the sharp smell of fireworks drifted through the air as both parties eyed each other. Princess Juju's eyes changed as well. Her originally bright blue eyes began to emanate a pale golden radiance. Her gaze felt as vast as the ocean. On the other side, Ma Xiaotao's eyes were like 2 raging flames, and the scorching aura that she let off gave her opponents an intense pressure. The heaven-being Douluo swept his eyes across Ma Xiaotao's body, and betrayed a single trace of astonishment before his expression quickly returned to normal. His face was cold as he said, "Step back. Before I announce the beginning of the contest, nobody is allowed to release their martial souls." Both parties stepped up to their respective corners, but their eyes had never left each other since the start. While retreating, both teams' formations swiftly changed. Shrek Academy took up a different formation than the one they had always used. Da Yuheng and Ma Xiaotao took the lead as the usual, but Xu Sanqi stood behind them guarding Ling Luoken, who stood behind him. Hua Yuao and Wang Dong stood side by side behind Ling Luoken. Bei Bei was up at the front beside Ma Xiaotao and Da Yuheng, establishing a 3-pronged powerful attack force. The Douluo National Academy also had a unique formation. 6 people formed a triangle, with 1 person in front and 2 members behind them, followed by 3 more members standing behind them. Princess Juju stood behind this triangle formed by these 6 people. The golden flashes in her eyes grew stronger, as if she were the general of the company. Xu Sanqi watched the princess with a grin. His eyes darted back and forth from her as a mischievous smile snuck up on his face. People were already familiar with the powerful effects of his mysterious underworld displacement. Still, being familiar didn't mean that they wouldn't fall for the same trick, just like when Shrek Academy faced off against Dusty Academy in the previous round. Everybody thought that Shrek Academy wouldn't use the same tactics again. However, the moment he stepped up, Xu Sanqi played the same trick without hesitation, and forcefully swapped Yu Wiqing into his own formation. Yu Wiqing wasn't given a chance at all before he was trampled over. Not every participating party had an expensive disposable soul tool like the invincible barrier. Xu Sanqi, that indecent fellow, triggered the mysterious underworld quake after swapping with his opponent to slow the others down. He had then leapt off the stage before his opponents could surround him. Just the Academy didn't stand a chance without Yu Wiqing, and the remainder of the contest became a walk in the park. Princess Juju's brows creased as she watched the eagle look on Xu Sanqi's face. It was clear that she was wary of soul skills that were hard to handle like the mysterious netherworld displacement. Begin. Just as both parties were closely observing each other, the heaven-being Douluo announced the start of the competition as a single ray of golden light shot across the center of the stage. In just a split second, the powerful title Douluo disappeared without a trace. The reactions of both parties were extremely quick, and everyone released their martial souls at the first possible instant. Hua Yuao unleashed his spiritual detection at once, and cast his gaze towards Princess Juju. He was very curious what was her martial soul. Exactly. Wang Yan didn't have enough time to explain it to them in detail, and all he said was that the princess was an auxiliary type battle soul master. Doesn't that mean that she's a tool soul master? Hua Yuao already had his doubts back then, but he didn't have time to think too much before he had to get on stage. A single ray of golden light lit up on Princess Juju's forehead. It was a golden, diamond-shaped jewel. Hua Yuao immediately thought about his eye of life the moment he noticed the position of that jewel. Wasn't it oddly similar to the position of his eye of life? However, Princess Juju didn't have a third eye. The golden diamond-shaped jewel started to radiate brilliant golden light the moment it appeared before proceeding to leave her forehead and drift upwards with rays of golden light encircling it. A magnificent crown glimmered above her head just like that before it descended and landed gently on her head. This crown seemed to have been formed by countless stars, with all the stars shimmering with a golden hue. With the diamond-shaped stone at the front of the formation, the stars swiftly retreated as 18 relatively bigger stars on the crown flew up to form an exquisite tip. The star crown. This was Princess Juju's martial soul. 2 yellow, 2 purple and single black soul ring appeared around the princess's body. She was a powerful soul king. The 6 others in front of Princess Juju were all the same opponents that Wang Yan had previously explained to the members of Shrek Academy in detail. They released their martial souls one by one. They too were all soul kings. Surprisingly, the lineup from the Douluo National Academy was comprised entirely of soul kings. Xu Sanqi's martial soul was already unleashed. As if he was afraid of others not knowing, he roared into the sky. Mysterious netherworld displacement. The shield of the swan turtle erupted with black light, and the rays of light were pointing right toward Princess Juju. At this moment, the star crown on Princess Juju's head burst with light as well. The 3rd ring on her body lit up as a flaring pillar of golden light shot up into the sky. The inner regions of the golden pillar of light was filled with a golden colored mist with specks of starlight spiraling up towards the sky. It was mystical sight. It was impossible to fathom what the effects of this soul skill were from its appearance. The Shrek Academy team charged forward at once. Ma Xiaotao took the lead, while Da Yuehang and Bei Bei followed closely behind. Ling Luogan's icy staff was once again in her hands as she raised it high over her head. A dense and chilly mist permeated their surroundings and enveloped Xu Sanqi, Duo Yuao, Wang Dong and herself. This patch of icy mist began to spread towards both ends of the arena with dazzling speed, and formed a gigantic shroud that slowly clamped down on their opponents. All four of them were completely hidden within this icy mist. This was Ling Luogan's fourth soul skill, and she had never used it before until now. Just kidding. Before he was swallowed by the icy mist, Xu Sanqi waved at the princess, as he never intended to use the mysterious underworld displacement. Princess Juju's face froze as she shot a cold look at him. The golden light mist that was rising into the air started to spread in all directions and blanketed her 16 mates. In the next instant, every member from the Douluo National Academy was covered with a layer of golden light. The golden radiance around Princess Juju's body hadn't dissipated yet as starlight continued to surge out of her star crown. Ma Xiaotao was lightning fast, and shot to the front of her opponent's formation in the blink of an eye. Blazing phoenix flames surged into the sky as she extended her enormous phoenix wings and blasted her phoenix fire line towards the Soul King right in front of her. This Soul King's name was Huang Hain. The fact that he was standing in front naturally meant that he was an assault type soul master. Before Princess Juju's appearance, he had been the Douluo National Academy's team leader. Huang Hain's martial soul was also extremely fearsome. Following the release of his martial soul, dense black energy started swirling around his body, and his body suddenly erupted in size. His muscles grew and became more defined, while a king character appeared on his head, similar to Da Yuehang. The difference between the two of them was that the hair all over Huang Hain's body wasn't white or a yellow chalk color. Instead, it was black, just pure black. His martial soul was the Dark Demon Tiger. It was a rare darkness-type martial soul, but he wasn't an evil soul master. The fearsome power of darkness imbued him with natural prowess that was not much inferior to Da Yuehang's White Tiger. At this moment, a mist of golden light diffused from behind his back, fusing together with his black soul power. The light didn't clash with the darkness. Instead, it painted his soul power a dull golden hue that flickered with specks of starlight, causing his body to no longer be just pure black. It was peculiar. Huang Hain howled into the sky as he faced Ma Xiaotao's phoenix fire line. He rushed forward without hesitation and punched out with his fist. His first soul ring radiated with yellow light, and a dull golden arc of light with a diameter of over 1 meter instantly burst out into the sky. Sparks crackled and flew, but the phoenix fire line was surprisingly not able to pierce even a single inch through the arc of light before it was stopped in its tracks. It was the Dark Demon Tiger's first soul skill, Aphotic Dark Wave. Ma Xiaotao was still a little bewildered by what had just taken place before the Aphotic Dark Wave, which now flared with a fiery red color due to the phoenix fire line, arrived before her. Even though the phoenix fire line under the soaring phoenix's amplification was only Ma Xiaotao's first soul skill, she was a powerful soul emperor with extremely solid foundations. How could her opponent even compare to her? Nonetheless, her opponent still managed to fend off her phoenix fire line with just his own first soul skill. However, the Aphotic Dark Wave was right before her eyes, and she no longer had time to contemplate. Ma Xiaotao held out her right palm out against the Aphotic Dark Wave, and it shattered into pieces in an instant with a puff sound. Ma Xiaotao's right hand flared with raging flames once more as abundant phoenix flames poured out and surged towards her opponent. This was her second soul skill, the Phoenix Baptism. Faced with Ma Xiaotao's ferocious onslaught, Huang Hain made a retreating motion as his body appeared to sit down. His third soul ring lit up, and his soul power, which sparkled with dull golden starlight, accompanied a bright tiger roar as it surged out as well and transformed into the form of a tiger while it crashed towards Ma Xiaotao's phoenix flames. This was the 1,000-year soul skill of his third soul ring, the Demon Tiger's Heaven Shock. Ma Xiaotao's sensations were much more acute as they clashed once more at close quarters. She discovered that when her opponent's soul skills collided with her phoenix flames, the golden starlight in her opponent's soul skills would break out first. Those tiny specks of starlight were like miniature bombs that continuously detonated inside her phoenix flames, and these unassuming explosiveness actually grinded down Ma Xiaotao's offensive power. The full force of Huang Hain's soul skills clashed with Ma Xiaotao's phoenix flames only after the dampening of the golden starlight. This shocking realization caused Ma Xiaotao to cast an astonished look at Princess Juju behind her opponent. What kind of martial soul was that? She could actually provide such powerful group auxiliary support for her entire team. This rivaled the effects of even the Seven Treasures Glazed Pagoda, which was widely claimed to be the most powerful auxiliary type martial soul. Ma Xiaotao concentrated as she searched her mind for a suitable answer to the Star Crown. As a student from Shrek Academy, Ma Xiaotao's knowledge was especially abundant, and she finally recalled what the Star Crown martial soul was. This martial soul was simply too rare in the continent, even though it had existed for a long time. The number of times it had appeared in the past 1,000 years was just too few, and thus it was forgotten. Still, one of the lessons she had once taken in Shrek Academy had introduced the Star Crown before. Huo Yuao, Wang Dong and Xia Xia had spent too little time in the academy, and had yet to reach that level. The Star Crown martial soul used to be held in high regard within the Douluo continent. It had been around since more than 10,000 years ago, and could be considered the most ancient amongst the top-ranked martial souls. Over 10,000 years ago, the entity that handled soul masters was an organization called the Soul Hall. Back then, the Douluo Empire and the Heaven Do Empire, the only two most powerful empires at that time, had to pander to them. The Soul Hall once possessed 6 especially powerful martial souls, and each one of them respectively represented the most powerful entities in the world at that time. One of them was the Star Crown. The Heaven Do Empire and the Douluo Empire had 3 seats each back then, and the Douluo Empire's royal family was still the White Tiger Duke's bloodline. However, the White Tiger martial soul wasn't one of the 6 great martial souls. Instead, the Star Crown martial soul was the strongest of the 3 seats that belonged to the Douluo Empire. The only problem was that the Star Crown bloodline's inheritance was thin, and thus it was rarely seen on the continent. It was similar to a hidden sect. Over 4,000 years ago, the Sun Moon continent collided and merged with the Douluo continent, eventually instigating the conflict between the Sun Moon Empire and the empires that resided within the Douluo continent. The Douluo Empire took the lead and absorbed most of the external pressure, causing the White Tiger Duke bloodline and the royal family to almost be driven to extinction. During this period, the Star Crown Sect stepped out of reclusion to unify and lead the Douluo Empire's armies in a valiant effort against their enemies. After intense and fearsome battles, did they manage to defend the Douluo Empire and consolidate the Douluo Empire's position as the leading sovereignty amongst the 3 nations within the original Douluo continent. The White Tiger Duke bloodline waned, and was left with a meager lineage. The position of the royal family was passed on, and the Star Crown bloodline took over as the new leaders of Douluo Empire. Of course, the new royalty did not choose to employ any underhanded tactics against the White Tiger Duke bloodline. They won over their citizens' hearts and minds and succeeded the throne via proper means, which caused the empire to flourish for over 1,000 years. Even if the Doling Empire and the Heavenly Soul Empire formed a coalition, their combined power would still not be enough to compare with the Douluo Empire. The Star Crown bloodline managed to turn the tide all those years ago, and this went to show their extraordinary power. In terms of pure auxiliary capabilities, the Star Crown was probably inferior to the 7 Treasures Glazed Pagoda. However, the Star Crown wasn't just about support, it possessed incredible fighting power, and even its auxiliary capabilities leaned entirely towards boosting fighting power. This was vastly different from the 7 Treasures Glazed Pagoda's overall capabilities. It could be said that the Star Crown martial soul existed purely for battle. Ever since the Star Crown Sect took over Douluo Empire, they became low profile once more. The passage of a few thousand years caused people to forget that the Douluo Empire's royal family was one of the more powerful soul master sects in the past, and the Star Crown martial soul was never seen again. In the outside world for many years. Even though Ma Xiaotao was recalling this information regarding the Star Crown martial soul, her movements did not slow down at all. Her opponent's Demon Tiger's Heaven Shock that was amplified by Princess Juju's third soul skill, the Star Glory spell, ultimately broke through the Phoenix Baptism's flames and reached Ma Xiaotao. Ma Xiaotao grunted coldly. Instead of retreating, she chose to advance and rushed toward the Dark Demon Tiger's light shadow. She roared into the sky as she extended her fiery wings. In this moment, Ma Xiaotao's entire being appeared to transform into a real fire phoenix. The phoenix flame's searing red colors were raised to a white incandescence, and the instant outburst of heat caused even Da Yuehang and Bei Bei to distance themselves from Ma Xiaotao. The blistering flame scorched the dark demon tiger's light shadow in an instant. Ma Xiaotao's body flashed once more, and she closed in on her opponent while launching another stream of phoenix fireline. This time, the phoenix flames had the same white incandescent hue. Normally, she wouldn't dare to raise her phoenix flames powers to such a level like she did just now. The reason for that was because unleashing the phoenix flames like this made her highly susceptible to a backlash from the evil fire within her body. If she didn't handle it correctly, she had a high chance of losing her mind again. Ma Xiaotao wasn't afraid this time, as she had an ultimate ice martial soulmaster beside her. With Huo Yuao around, she was no longer fearful of suffering the pain from the evil fire's backlash. In fact, she hadn't had any problems at all since the last time she had received help. The reason why Ma Xiaotao could become a team leader and repress Dai Yueheng was entirely due to her prowess. How could Shrek Academy's teachers not know that she possessed a very impatient and short-tempered nature? However, she was one of the most powerful ones amongst her age. Dai Yueheng was actually inferior to her by an entire class, and Ma Xiaotao could only be described as terrifying when she was in full eruption mode. Wang Yan had been rivaling their fighting spirit over the past few days. Even though she didn't express it, how could she not be affected? All the energy, vigor, and overflowing belligerence that she had been suppressing were on full display today as she faced off against a powerful opponent. Huang Hain was shocked as the sweltering flames blazed before him. He discovered, to his intense fear, that he seemed to be completely unable to defend himself. The white-hot phoenix flames surrounded him, and all the air within a few meters of him was completely distorted. The sky-high temperature of the white circle of fire triggered and detonated the Star Glory spell's energy in the sky, perfectly blocking off the Star Glory spell's effects. This meant that the Star Glory spell was no longer able to provide support for him. Just as Huang Hain was in an incredibly dangerous situation, he felt the pressure lift from his body as Ma Xiaotao's white-hot flames started to tilt towards the side before they began to drift up into the sky. A girl appeared not far behind Huang Hain. Her looks were average, and she looked like a simple and normal girl. She had long dark purple hair behind her back, and had freckles on her face. Her most defining feature was her eyes. It seemed as if her eyes were blazing with fire. All 5 of her soul rings were undulating on her body as her right hand reached out toward Ma Xiaotao's phoenix flames in the distance. She was the one that had drawn Ma Xiaotao's phoenix fireline away. Fire control type. An explanation instantly rang out in Ma Xiaotao's head. Wang Yan had reminded Shrek Academy's students of this purple-haired young girl specifically. Before Princess Juju appeared in the Douluo National Academy's team, the 2 individuals that Wang Yan was most wary of were 2 control-type soul masters. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.